We are here for week number 29 here at the Talladega Superspeedway here in Talladega, Alabama. The last time the NOVAR Verizon Cup Series drivers hit the track was at the Phoenix International Raceway in Phoenix, Arizona, where Scott Johnson took the checkered flag in one overtime after George Davis dropped out of the race due to a mechanical issue while leading coming to the end of regulation. The big storyline heading into this weekend was the potential of rain happening during the race day, as for the most part during the weekend, rain was never really an issue. However, during the day, the weather was kind of been cloudy for most part, as weather was a major concern. It actually was reported to be an 80% chance between 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. However, as we head to race day here today, the weather has really played on the factors, as it actually started pouring about 15 minutes prior to the actual start of the race. So as a result, the cars had to be covered up and the track had to be dried. And in some strange twist of events, NOVAR officials actually sent out a crew to install lights, surprisingly, which I don't think that would have made any sense at all. So as a result, the start time of this race, which would normally be about 3:30 in the afternoon, the green flag would fall here at 9:45 in the evening. So for some strange reason, we'll actually be running here at Talladega under the lights in probably a very strange twist and turns. Other storylines include is that Tobias Newbridge finally spoke about the incident, about the Dover incident. We don't have the quotations at this time, but we do have word that sometime during the Phoenix weekend, Newbridge did comment about that. He DNQ'd last week at Phoenix, but qualifies here today. And now for the rest of our winners here. The NOVAR Kellogg's Southeast and Northeast were in competition, the Northeast being at Toledo with Lester Conway taking the checkered flag in that race, and the Southeast being in competition with Devin Hamlin taking the checkered flag at North Wilkesboro. The DHL European Tour was the only other series running at the Talladega Superspeedway, and out of 50 laps, there were 46 lead changes. Tore Generum took the checkered flag for Norway. The Talladega Superspeedway is a 2.66-mile superspeedway. We'll be racing here for 94 laps, exactly 250 miles. The last time we ran here, Eddie Johns nipped Shane Bliss by 4 1/1000ths of a second in an overtime thriller. Winning the Aflac Pull Award here is Shane Nargan, car number 32. Alan Kimmel starts on his outside, his first start back since that injury he sustained at Grand Detour. The majority of our championship contenders will start around the midfield. Shane Harden, your points leader, will start 19th. Eddie Johns, 4th of the points standing, starts 20th. And Walter Youthen will start in the 22nd spot. Our lowest championship contender, actually our highest, is Scott Johnson, who is starting this race in 6th. So Shane Nargan, car number 32, leads the field down to the green flag as they're already starting to try to fan out here. Alan Kimmel, car number 88, in second after his 2 race absence due to his injury at Grand Detour. He's back in the car and gets that car second on the grid. So excellent job for that 88 car. And we're already 4 wide in the first turn of the race as Casey Uto, Jason Duke, James Wilson Jr., and Cody Wyke, the teammate of Shane Nargan, Damon Scott, also a teammate to both Wyke and Nargan, as both of them looks like the silver green cars of Damon Scott and Cody Wyke are going to try to work their way into the lead, while the other one's on the high side. And so we see we already still going 4 wide, that being Mike Hogan, Casey Littinger, Corey Von Delga, and Jason Duke still stuck on the really high up there. But as coming out of turn number 4, car number 18 of Damon Scott is going to lead the field coming into the trial, and roughly about 6 hours after the race was supposed to get started, we're finally going to complete the first lap as Cody Wyke, car number 22, I believe, got the lead on the first lap. And Shane Nargan, car number 32, he's going to try to make it to Silver Green Racing 3 wide. However, Cody Wyke into the 22 gets a run thanks in help to the 11 of James Wilson Jr. Wilson has been very good here on the Super Speedways. And now as they exit out of turn number 2, and here we go, we got several cars around. Looks like I think Shane Howard's in there, Jason Duke, Morgan's more, Stephen Volk's in there. As we got to take a look at this, here's what happened. Looks like Ryan Pearson gets into the back of Eddie Johns, one of our championship contenders. Another one, Walter Youthen, is also in there as well. Several cars spinning out of the back straight. One car was hit. Arden, I think, went rolling down the back straightaway. That might have been the 73 of Shane Truex. Here's what happened from Shane Truex. Truex tries to go low. He actually gets hit, and I believe he gets hit from the 95 of Evan Brooks. You can't really tell there. 73 going on a wild roll. Shane Truex, looks like Shane Bliss in the 42 is also in there. Cameron Brooks, Jonathan Winslow. Here's Walter Youthen, car number 8. He was the other championship contender involved. Looks like Ryan Pearson hooks the back of Eddie Johns. Jared Lancel gets a piece of that. I think CJ Gordon got a piece of that as well. Jason Duke also did. Tobias Newbridge, Moko Mansell. A lot of drivers involved in this one. Here's the here's the camera from the wall. Is there you see a lot of cars. Jason Duke's also in there. That's from Stephen Volts. Among others, here's another angle from Luke Ward's perspective. Gets in, gets turned around. Shane Howard of 03 is also in there. Logan Chin might have also gotten a piece of that as well. We didn't really get the exact list, but about 20 cars were involved in that accident, as about 7 of them did drop out of the race. Ethan Littinger, car number 51, led on the restart with Walter Green, car number 39 in second. Cody White, car number 22 in third. Alan Kimmel in fourth, with the other silver green car of Shane Harden right in the back of this pack. Shane Harden in the 59 is also up there, as Harden's going to try to get to the middle line and trying to see if he can get a draft off that 51 of Ethan Littinger. But looks like the 39 of Walter Green's trying to shut the door on the 59 of Shane Harden. Harden, who just had a brutal week at Phoenix after he was involved in an early accident and really couldn't recover from that. And he's going to get himself involved in another accident. So Harden, the points leader. So for the second wreck in a row, a championship contender is involved. This time it's the points leader, Shane Harden. Looks like, I think the 39 was trying to come down, but the 59 just had enough of the bumper, and that got him involved. Alan Kimmel and James Wilson Jr. got in there as hard hit, and looks like Shane Kinchin just took a hard hit into the 88 Alan Kimmel, as Chris Bell also had nowhere to go. James Wilson Jr. went on top of a couple of cars, and I believe the other car might have been Eddie Johns, who actually kept on going. Here's what happened. It looks like Harden tried to get looks like Walt Green tried to shut the door, but I think he just didn't have enough room there. And Harden just happened to be an innocent victim along with James Wilson Jr. And then right into the back end, James Wilson Jr. goes on top of several cars. Logan Chin also took a pretty wild ride. And then Chris Bell, I don't think he tried to slow down at all. So his first race back after an injury. He gets involved in a heavy crash, but luckily I think he should be all right for next week. The restart would happen on lap 11 with Cody White, car number 22, leading on this restart with the 4 of Carter Papp in second, Corey Von Duggan in third, and Shane Howard and Scott Howard on car number 25 running in the fourth spot. There you see the pack right there as it's kind of dwindled down since those 2 sizable accidents way early in this race, as I believe. I don't think the environment here is like, normally they're running this race at daytime, and I believe the amount of grip that this track actually has, since most of these drivers would normally be running at the daytime, but due to the fact that rainstorm, I think earlier in the day, I believe that might have been, they have a lot more grip as normal, but I don't think that might be a major factor on why these accidents are all happening. As here's the pack of eventual laps later. There you see Cody White, car number 22. He actually falls back to the high side. They were running 3 wide. Casey Lester, car number 12, another Silver Green racing car, has also jumped in the fray as well. Damon Scott in the 18, also likewise. Casey Littinger, White is being helped by the 5 of Casey Littinger. As there you see Chris Clark making it 4 wide, a little bit risky there with Shane Howard, Carter Pavis, and Damon Scott. Littinger will get in back of the white, now getting to Johnson. So for the third time this weekend, a championship contender is involved in an accident. Scott Johnson this time, and I believe, unlike the first 2, it didn't seem like they had a lot of damage. Johnson gets turned around. Looks like Damon Scott, car number 18, also got a piece of that. Corey Von Dug also did. And then Scott Johnson tries to keep it going and tries to go around Damon Scott, but then gets plopped into the back by the 2 of Ryan Pearson. So Scott Johnson, car number 58, tough break for him, as all 4 of the major championship contenders are having issues, as they see Walter Youth in the 8 actually fell back in the pack. Ethan Littinger, car number 59, would once again lead on this restart. Casey Littinger, car number 12 in second. Carter Pavis and car number 4 running in the 3rd spot. As there you see the 14 of Luke Warren, I believe the 14 of Luke Warren and the 74 of Marcus Powell were, I believe, are still running 4th and 5th, as they're going to be heading down the back straightaway. There you see a lot of cars starting to fan out. I believe Rand Lindelsol, Casey Littinger, Walter Youthen. Long ago, those cars actually started to fan out throughout the entire back straightaway. As they see here's the Ethan Littinger, the 5, still holding the bottom line, protecting it from Carter Pavis, car number 4. Pavis has actually put up some decent numbers this year, but for the most part has not really had the season he wanted. And 2014 can be the same, likewise, as that year he was injured in a wreck at Blue Ridge. Here's the pack several laps later, as these cars, I believe, leading the pack is Mike Hogan in car number 17, Casey Littinger in second, with Casey Lester in third, Ethan Littinger 4th, and then 2 cars at the back are Carter Pavis and Chadler Blake in car number 15. So with all 4 of the championship contenders all having considerable damage due to the parts of their accidents, which all 4 of the major championship contenders were involved in the first 3 cautions. But looks like so far so good for the rest of these guys. It actually kind of brings the battle for the this battle for the lead to attention, as one of the storylines next week A big story like throughout the race was lap traffic. Moco Mansell, car number 46, who's running about 30 miles an hour slower than the rest of the field. I don't know why NOVAR has not just parked him, as Mansell just held up the line. There you see Scott Johnson, car number 58. He gives the inside line to the leaders, as this would kind of bunch the pack, as this would spread the pack out, but eventually, due to how the draft works, it would bring them back together. Mike Hogan, car number 17, is back in the fray with Chadwick Blake, car number 15, in second. These two are also somewhat in the championship consideration, but thanks in part to Shane Harton actually dropping out of the race, these two can now potentially have a chance to potentially cut the deficit away as we head to even more lap traffic. Warren, Jason Duke, Moco Mansell, and I believe, that's Gordon Billard in there as they say, oh, Ethan Linger and Jason Duke got together, and there they go. Moco Mansell, Casey Linger, and Mike Hogan go for a slide. For our fourth caution of the race on lap 43, Mike Hogan, car number 17, slides it down the back straightaway. After contact from Moco Mansell, I think he just pushed up into Casey Linger, and the 17 doesn't get a lot of damage there, so no harm, no foul for that, for the 17. Ethan Linger would lead on this restart with Carter Pavis, car number 4, running in second. Chadwick Blake, car number 15, running in third. Casey Lester in car number 12, holding on to that fourth spot. And Mike Hogan, despite being involved in that last caution, was able to get tires and was able to get himself back in consideration. Ethan Linger already starting to pull away, thanks in part, and thanks with helping out with the 91 of Gordon Billard, as there you see the pack, I think right there, just holding their ground as the 15 of Chadwick Blake tries to run down the 51 of Ethan Linger. Chadwick Blake, whose only victory so far this year has actually come on a super speedway, with that being at Dentsville way early in the year. Ethan Linger also won on a pretty long track. Well, it wasn't exactly a super speedway, but it was a long track. Oh, contact! Shane Nargan and Moco Mansell Nargan almost turned Mansell into the inside wall, but both of them were able to save it there, so great driving by the 46 of Moco Mansell. The 15 of Chadwick Blake was actually able to run down the 51 of Ethan Linger on his own, as you saw there, and the 15 would eventually go for the lead there. Here's Chris Clark, car number 56. Clark, who actually been kind of thinking about it, he is actually, I believe, just barely inside the top 20 of the point standings, and he's actually the worst performing driver of Monster Energy Racing. That's how good this team's been all year. And running here at Talladega, despite losing about a good chunk of the drivers due to wrecks, they still have one running strong in Chris Clark in that 56 car. Clark, who's almost came to victory, I believe, at Boston, finished that race in second, but that's really nothing else to say about that. Here's the second group of cars, which is actually a mix of a battle for 8th and a battle for 11th. As you see, the 25 of Scott Howard, the 91 of Gordon Billard, and I believe the 40 of Carter Pavis is there. Back up front, Casey Lester and the 56 of Chris Clark would battle for the lead, but Casey Lester would jump to the high line, and Ethan Linger, car number 51. Lester tries to shut the door, but doesn't want to risk taking himself out of the race with the 51 Ethan Linger as well. Mike Hogan and Chadwick Blake, the two East Racing teammates, would battle out as well. We would have our fifth caution of the race on lap 74 due to a debris caution. And on the restart, Ethan Linger and car number 51 led on the restart with, I believe that's the 15 of Chadwick Blake in second. As we're going to see, as they take the green flag here, Ethan Linger and the 51 still holding that line. Linger has been very strong throughout the weekend here, as he's been holding on to the bottom line. Chadwick Blake at the 15 just still hanging in behind that 15 of the 51 of Linger. Blake, who's pretty much been the only one to actually been able to run with the 51, as Linger's just had a very good day. Those two were running so strong that both of them actually had mechanical issues. Chadwick Blake, with about 10 laps to go, he would have a mechanical issue. Actually had a loose lug nut there. The same issue would strike the 51 of Ethan Linger, so two of the strongest cars of the race have not gone out due to a strange, strange issue here. And now, as a result, this would put the battle for the lead between these guys. Casey Linger is currently leading the way with the 56 of Chris Clark in second. CJ Carter Pavis, I believe, that's in third. Chadwick Blake and Ethan Linger are actually somewhat back in this group, as they are running one lap down. Blake's running in 10th while Ethan Linger is running 11th. And there you see Cody White in car number 22 is also in the fray, as well as White, who was actually stuck in that second pack for the majority of the night, is now back in contention, considerably trying to win this race, along with Ronald Portland, car number 31, trying to look for his second victory of the season. However, last time a Tri-Racing car almost got his second victory of the season, they considerably fell out of contention. Casey Linger, car number 5, Mike Hogan, there you see he tries to go for second under the 56 of Chris Clark, as Casey Linger in car number 5, he's going to lead the field down. Linger has been in control since the two dominant cars went out of the race. He takes the white flag this time by, as now they head into turn number 1. Clark in the 56 trying to utilize the draft on that 5 car and see if he can make a move. Racing Mansell's in the way. Lincher makes an incredible move, but the 56 of Clark got held up as well. And pretty much most of the leaders got held up as well. So now Casey Linger, car number 5, is starting to pull away from the rest of the group. He has help from the 15 of Chandler Blake. Casey Linger, who's just had an abysmal year in that number 5 car, is just trying to do everything he can, as he has the help from the 15 of Chandler Blake's, and I don't think the rest of the group can catch him at this rate. Chandler Blake, he can make the move all he wants, but it's not going to matter anyway. There you see the match scramble for second, as you see Casey Lester and Chris Clark and Cody White all battling it out for second. But coming out of the tri-oval, Casey Linger in car number 5 will score his first victory of the season and his 3rd career NOVAR Verizon Cup Series race, his first since 2013 at Pocono. And there we see the match scramble for second. Looks like Casey Lester will get the second spot over Chris Clark, and Cody White gets 4th. So thanks in part to lap traffic, Casey Linger scores his 3rd career NOVAR Verizon Cup Series victory. First win for DM Racing this year, as I believe it's the first time that Chevrolet has gone to victory lane not under the Ease Racing banner. As this is Linger, as I mentioned, this is Casey Linger's 3rd career win. His other 2 came at 2013 at Pocono and 2012 at Chicagoland. Casey Lester, car number 12, was able to beat out the rest of the pack for the 2nd spot. They finished about 1.7 seconds back, which that's normally unusual for this type of pack racing, as Chris Clark in car number 56 finishes in 30, barely beat out the 22 Cody White for that 3rd spot. So I believe this is Clark's best finish since that runner-up finish at Boston. Cody White, car number 22, finishes this race in 4th. Mike Hogan, who was potentially a very strong car throughout the weekend, finishes the race in 5th. Ronald Portland, car number 31, finishes in 6th. From 1 through 6, all were within the 1st pack. These next 3 were the 7, 8, and 9, all were in a 2nd pack, led by Carter Pavis, who finished the race in 7th. Great run for that 4-car to Carter Pavis, who's been putting up a few of these good runs lately, as Pavis, who's just not really had the luck, and I believe could have actually had a contention car to win the race, however, was shuffled in that lap on the restart with those lap traffic and never really had a chance to win it. The same can be said for TJ Gordon and Shane Nargan. Gordon in the 48 finishes this race in 8th, and Shane Nargan, car number 32, is the last car to finish on the lead lap, 6.91 seconds back. Rounding out the top 10 is Chandler Blake, car number 15. He was able to follow the draft of Casey Linger, and thanks in part to that mad scramble that was caused by Moko Mansell stacking up the field, he was able to secure the 10th spot, as Ethan Linger was actually stumbled in that pack. He finished that race in 11th. And now we take a look at our point standings. Shane Harden in car number 59 still retains the points lead despite finishing out of this race in 26th. And thanks in part to the 2 finishes that Scott Johnson and Walter Ethan sustained, both of them, all 4 of the major championship contenders weren't involved in crashes. As Harden, who was involved in that lap number 7 crash and dropped out of the race, he finished the race in 26th. Scott Johnson, car number 58, was involved in an accident. However, Johnson and Ethan were able to keep going due to their accidents. They finished 19th and 17th, respectively. As a result, this cuts the points lead down to 5. So Scott Johnson now has a 5-point lead, has a 5-point deficit over the 59 of Shane Harden. So we could see a new championship leader at Texas, barring that how it all turns out, since the top 3 in the points have been really good at the mile and half checks, and all of them have 1 win in their name under that belt. Walter Ethan, car number 8, is 3rd in the points. He's 10 points back of the points leader of Shane Harden. Eddie Johns, car number 55, who I believe had the worst finish out of the 4. He finished the race in 34th. He is 29 points back of the points leader. And based on how it looks like here, theoretically, if everything does settle out the way it is, we'll probably see a 4-man championship hunt come Columbia, which that will be after this race, as last year was a 4-man championship hunt. This year could also likely be the same thing. However, with a little bit of a strange twist that 3 of the 4 will be Monster Energy Racing cars. Casey Lester and Mike Hogan are tied with 73 points, as Lester has the tiebreaker with 6 top 5s to Mike Hogan's 4. Lester and Hogan could still theoretically have a chance to make it into the cut at Columbia, but the chances of that happening are very slim. And the chances for that are even slimmer for the 15 of Chandler Blake, who has an 86-point deficit back to the points leader. He, despite having a stellar finish in this one, just really couldn't do anything about it. Ethan Linger, despite leading the race high 35 laps at Talladega, has been mathematically eliminated from title contention. So it will guarantee that we won't see a second rookie champion, but I believe that trend has kind of declined in quite some time, even though that Scott Harper came very close to doing so. But the good news for Littinger is that Littinger, at this point of the season, has pretty much locked up Rookie of the Year honors, barring an extreme collapse, which that might not happen at all, as the 51, I believe, unofficially has one Rookie of the Year honors, but we'll get to the official standings a little bit later. Shane Nargan, card number 32, who was eliminated last week. This, with both Nargan and Littinger eliminated in respective weeks, this all has to lie that Casey Lester will have to make some miraculous rally in the next several weeks in order for him to remain in the championship hunt. But the chances of Silver Green going 2 in a row are now very slim heading into Texas. And now rounding out the top 10 with 155 points back of the points leader and 36 back of Shane Nargan is CJ Gordon, who's basically held that spot for the past several weeks. And now taking a look through 11 through 20, Jason Duke, card number 66, he didn't gain any ground and still remains in the 11th spot in the point standings, although he's trailing by 11 over CJ Gordon to get into the top 10. Cody White, card number 22, gains a spot to 12th in the point standings. He is 195 points back. He then has another 24-point deficit over Jake Killen, card number 76, who drops his spot to 13th in the point standings, so the 22 and 76 essentially swap spots. Despite getting a top 3 finish, Chris Clark remains where he is at, 14th in the point standings, with 226 points back in the points leader. Ronald Portland in card number 31. He is 258 points back. He gained 7 spots to 15th, so he went from 22nd to 15th. Walter Green, card number 39, remains stationed in the 16th spot with a 268-point deficit. Carter Pavis, card number 44, cracks into the top 20 after a few strings of good runs by that number 4, Carter Pavis. As Pavis, I believe his performance has really been paying him up. Now he has a chance to potentially finish inside the top 20, as it's been a really stellar year for Billy Garber Motorsports in general. They got that victory at Casey with Max Rapon doing so, and they've constantly had their cars very close, either very close or in the top 20 for the majority of the year. Kyrie Youth, card number 57, drops 3 spots to 19th of the point standings. And rounding out the top 20 is the winner from this week, Casey Littinger. He gains 9 spots from 29th to 20th. And now let's take a look at our race recap. There were 5 cautions between laps. Scott Howard was a hard climber. He gained 27 spots to finish in 13th. Ethan Littinger, who finished 11th, led the most laps with 35. There were 9 leaders for 37 lead changes, and the margin of victory was 1.77 seconds. The next time the NOVAR Verizon Cup Series drivers will hit the track will be at the penultimate race at the Texas Motor Speedway. They'll be joined alongside the Gatorade Series, the GameStop Truck Series, and the NOVAR Razor Aero Series. The other series that will be running that weekend will be the Kellogg's Northwest, the Western divisions of the Kellogg Series. The Northwest will be at Idaho Super Speedway in some controversial fashion, and then the Southwest will be at North Texas. We'd like to congratulate Casey Littinger on scoring the victory here at Talladega, and we will see you next week at the Texas Motor Speedway, and who will emerge as our championship contenders entering Columbia.